welcome to Lead with Intentions. Today is a very beautiful day for all of us here. I am sending all of you blessings and great wishes. Every single week, I, your host, Ambereen Hameed, shows up here at 12 p.m. Eastern Time to really give you an understanding and a glimpse of the greatness of the people that lies within our lives. These people are humongous, and I've crossed paths with them, which is why I think it's so important to share their greatness with all of you here. Welcome to Spanglish World Network, Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Remember to download the Zingo TV app on your respective app stores, iOS, Android, all that good stuff, along with any smart TV 2016 and on forward. Remember, the app is completely free. As you download this app, engage with us. Let us know what's working, what we're doing good, and give us some feedback on what we can improve to make your experience even greater and even better. Along with that, Zingo TV is available on the Google Chromecast, all the Amazon devices, and also the Chromecast devices. With that said, today is a delight. This woman is somebody who captivated me the first time I met her. I knew there was something great about Alisha de Lorenzo. She's actually somebody who lives with intention, who lives with integrity, and who lives with her authenticity, which is why I thought it was really important for you to actually come on the show, Alisha, and unleash Aliveness. And she is a keynote speaker who helps individuals, leaders, and even organizations discover their own potentials. She in turn experiences the kind of aliveness that unlocks the full potential. If all that is not enough, she's a speaker, she is a clinician, she is a coach, she's a consultant, and on top of that, she's got 2 decades. I know she looks very young, and she started when she was like 10, right? So that's what it is, of education experience where she's really empowering individuals to live into their best potential and their best lives. Welcome to the show, madam.
Oh my goodness. It's such a pleasure to be here. But everything that you just said is a reflection of you. I felt the same way when I met you, and the power of your joy and authenticity and what you are doing in the world was equally met.
Oh, well, I love it. Well, today is all about you, Alisha. So we're going to keep the focus there, all right? Tell us something about you. Who are you, and what is it that you do, Alisha?
I mean, at the core of who I am is a learner and an educator, someone who really believes strongly in the power of learning and growing and sharing that with everyone, no matter who it is. There's an opportunity to influence and empower and to inspire. And so I try to use my life in that way. But yeah, I mean, that's at the core of who I am.
And the core is wonderful. Give us more. Give us more besides who your essence is, into how it is that you're really pouring into people with influence and empowerment and grow with education and learning.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's interesting because most people, when you ask them who they are, they start with their career or their title. And I just realized we did that a little bit backwards, which I think is not such a bad thing. But my background is in education. I was an educator for almost 20 years and had a great opportunity to influence the education system in a way that was transformative. So way before we were doing anything in education around mental health or even understanding trauma, long before pandemic, I had a vision for education that was disruptive of the cultural conditions that we were used to. And for a very long time, I was told, no, that we don't do those things here. It's not the way it's done. And that led to my burnout. But I realized so many people were hurting and that there were solutions right in front of us. And that led me really to create a system of education that was integrative. And when I finally got the green light to do that, I was able to, put that burnout aside. I was able to come into my creativity again, come into my power again, come into my passion again. And now I get to use that and spread that through organizations, government agencies, corporate America. And so all of those very hardships along the way have allowed me to speak from a knowing about what it takes to be disruptive in a positive way and to transform systems and ourselves, really, because that's where it begins.
For all of you who are tuned in and watching, and I'm gonna love this conversation so much. She is brilliant, and the wisdom that she's dropping, you've got to write it down. Like speaking from knowing, that has so many transformative ways, right? Just the
Yeah.
fact that you know who you are, you know the value that you have. What was it, Alisha, that allowed the education system to finally say yes from all the no's previously?
Well, it was persistence on my end because it was 10 years of knocking on a door, having been told no, and then, getting really burnt out, but really believing, just like when we talk about this idea of like moving from this knowing, I knew there was a better way. I knew there were solutions. And I had given myself one more chance. And I was like, I have one more try at this. Otherwise, I'm out. And I had started to try to get out of education. And I had an administrator who he came in, he was brand new. He was our superintendent. And he said, oh, you think you can do something about this? And I said, I know I can. And he was like, okay, go ahead, try it. And so when I think about that, it's less about the nitty gritty details of that. And it's really about the agency. And so when I talk about aliveness, I talk about, we think that people need to come already fully alive to whatever it is, their lives, their families, but really, in my experience, it's when we're given the agency and the autonomy to do the things that, bring us alive, we can then do the creative work. And so I think it's a flip of the way we look at it. We don't just necessarily come to the table motivated or feeling fully alive. And so his green light matched with my persistence. So him giving me that agency, that autonomy to go ahead. You think you can do something about this? Just try. And, you can't just give me a challenge like that. So I was like, yes, here it is, And so that agency matched with my, passion and persistence and belief in myself. I knew there was a better way and then to share it with the world was what the conversation was.
I mean, I think it's so true, right? Like when I talk about it, like Tawakal is the essence of an Arabic word, which basically means believing in something greater than.
Yeah. 100%.
And so it's beautiful how it's kind of tying back into this conversation of knowing and believing and just saying, just one more chance. What was it? I think it's really important for the audience members that are listening, is what was it about that thought set in your head which said, I just have one more chance before I opt out?
I think it was about, really, I know it was about a boundary. When I felt, and I described this as the experience up until that point, for many years, I felt like the soul was getting sucked out of me. And I'm a super creative person and I'm full of vibrancy. It's just the way I live my life. And I couldn't tap into any of that. And so I just knew I was out of alignment. I knew for a long time I was out of alignment and felt like I couldn't necessarily get out. And what was on the other side, the comfortable discomfort that we keep ourselves in. And so for me, it was like, it's time, I gotta go. I spent many years in that space. And then I knew I had to leave. I knew that it wasn't right, that I wasn't aligned anymore. And so that was a boundary for me. And coincidentally, in education, there's lots of ups and downs and transitions and turnovers and things like that. And I think there's a lot of parallels to like life and even corporate, all of those things. But I had said to myself when I had gotten to the high of that, and we had been making great strides and changing the whole district that we were in and getting great results and sharing that across the state. And I said, if it ever doesn't feel like this again, that's my indicator to leave. And after 4 years of doing that, again, we had a turnover and I knew it didn't feel that way anymore. And that's when I stepped out of my traditional role in education formally. So boundaries. I don't want to live like this anymore. There's something else on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, you say it so eloquently and like, yeah, there was a boundary. But for many of us, including myself, who's raised in a very traditional Pakistani culture, women don't have boundaries. They don't set boundaries. So when you're speaking to our audience members, whether it be a man or a woman or however you identify, what advice would you give them to really step in to say, no, boundaries are really important for you?
Well, I think without them, the impact is not only on us, but it's on everybody that is in our sphere of influence. And so when we don't have the boundaries to have a container for ourselves that is in alignment with who we are and our highest vision and our highest purpose and all those things, then that seeps out into the way that we engage with our families and our friends and our communities. And so I think it's important to know where those boundaries are. And I think the edge is important, right? Like I think of this idea of surfing the edge of our disruption and our positive disruption. So positive disruption is, in essence, the thing that we do that's just a little bit uniquely different that gets us better results. And so, it's not diving into the deep ends of disruption where it becomes negative. It's surfing that edge and pushing that edge of our positive disruption, so that the way that we do the thing that we do, whether that's parenting or that's in business or that's as an educator or a leader, the way that we do that thing is positively disruptive because it's unique and different than the way everybody else is doing it around us. That gets us better outcomes, even though we might have the same access and the same resources as everybody else. So
that concept of innovation, right? Like thinking outside the box.
Lives there. Yeah.
I love me innovation. Okay.
I love me some innovation.
I do. It's like one of my power words for 2024. Kind of sat there. I have this activity that I encourage every single person who's here, listening and viewing this show is, every single year define 3 words that you want to live into. And the first 2 came like this. The third one, they were all over the place. Like, what do you want, Ambereen? Like, what do you want? And then very eloquently, like the word innovation came through. And I was like, oh yeah, that encompasses a lot of the things that I'm thinking about. Because you have to have that creative edge. You have to have an understanding. You have to have a knowing. You have to be able to grow and troubleshoot and try and fall, fail, get up, because it's tied to something more. I've already been hearing a lot about the next question I'm going to ask you. But for our audience members who are here listening, just so they can get the right answer, right? What does it mean for you to live an intentional life or lead with intention?
Oh, well, I think it's always I think it's something daily to be reflecting on. And that is like, what is the best intended action? What is the next best intention? Or what is the intention, the next best step with integrity for me? And so I think it's connected to our values, right? So I value a life of vibrancy and hopefully longevity. And so when I make decisions and when I make choices, I make those from a place of, say, for example, how I want to feel energetically. I make those through a lens of what is going to be best for my brain. And so like I make decisions around my health and activity through brain health, because I know that is the key to our well-being, to my well-being and longevity. And so I never look at, when I can sit down and eat a whole thing of Cinnabons or like, cookies or whatever is your sweet tooth or, whatever that is for you. I don't look at that as bad or good. I just look at it as either closer to my center or further away. And if I'm further away from my center, from my core, from my alignment, whatever word you want to use for that, then there's consequences for that. And it's just an awareness and then stepping back closer. And so there's always this opportunity to reset. But I think living with intention is an everyday, day-to-day awareness and reflection of the choices that we've made, and if they either bring us closer or further away from our center, our core. That's how I see it. Yeah, without judgment, hopefully.
Yeah, I love that you added that last bit, without judgment, because I think many people have taken the same seat that you have, and they talk about their past and how they used to think and be. And I can also attest to the fact that I was very judgmental of myself, not other people as much.
Yep.
It was like the voice in my head, it just never didn't serve me.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is just realizing that brain health is a thing. It matters. What you put into your body is very important, right? Because either it's going to fuel you or drain you.
Yeah.
But understanding that mistakes are evident, and don't get caught up in that. Don't judge yourself.
Yeah. Have the Cinnabon, have the cookie, enjoy it, and realize, okay, today I might not be as focused, but tomorrow I'm going to make a decision. And depending on how I want to feel and what I have to do, some days you can have those days and give yourself that grace. And then when you recognize it, say, oh, okay, not today, and then move closer to your center again.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful, because I really pray then many people start to live more from their inner than the external, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm being completely honest, the one thing that I've seen is the more successful that people become,
Mm-hmm.
the more the external doesn't really matter anymore.
Mm. Yeah.
So I want to ask you to share something that's personal so that we can all get to know you a little bit better.
Sure, let's do it.
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought
Sky's
there
the
was a
limit.
question, a leading
That is
question.
the question, my girl.
Something personal. I was like, hit me. I got it. Something personal. How deep you want to go?
Girl, you know me. The deeper, the better. I got my shovel. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Personal, I think what's coming to me is when you talked about that judgment, I'm probably my harshest critic, and really, like when I think about myself as a parent and parenting, I always am harder on myself than I probably need to be. And, that's tied to, for me, it's tied to uh, really deeply wanting to parent in such a way that is, with influence and intention and openness and joy, but probably more than anything rooted in the loss of my mother. So I lost my mother to cancer. She was diagnosed when I was in my early 20s and died just a few years later. I might have not even been 20 yet. So, the legacy of carrying on parenting attached to her and her legacy and how she loved and showed affection and cared for me, imperfectly, like, of course, but yeah, so I think that when we have such emotional ties or just kind of places core to us, our values, we could hold ourselves to a more judgmental view, and so that's something I have to give myself more grace with. But it's just so important to me. It's just so core to me. It's such a huge value in my life to parent my children in such a way that they don't have to recover from their childhood, if I could put it that way. I do a lot of work around trauma and early childhood adversity and the impact on the brain and relationships and learning and all the things. And if I could get my kids through this life in a way that they don't have to recover from a childhood, I feel like I put them at a great advantage in life. So.
Okay, well, you are CHPC and so am I. So we know we're going to push you.
Let's do it.
Do you think that's possible? Like realistically, is there such thing as a perfect parent?
No, I don't think a perfect parent exists at all. Absolutely not. And the aim isn't for perfection. I think there's lots of times where I mess up and I, unconscious, reactions and things like that. But having the awareness to know, that wasn't the best version of myself. And I think a lot of parents really were never modeled the way to recover and to clean up. So one of the things I commit to is just cleaning it up. And sometimes it feels crazy. It's like, well, I just lost it on my kids. And then I turn around and say, there's probably a better way to do that. And I just do that over and over again, like as many times as I need to, which that's an exceptional parent, I think, but not a perfect parent.
Yeah. I don't believe in perfection, and I'm putting it out there to all of you, but I think excellence is, for me, excellence has really changed the game. Because I can say something is perfect for me, and you're like, oh dear God, it's like a B minus on brain. Where is your perfection, right?
Yeah.
I really want to dive into what you're talking about, because I think, like for me, the heart and the core of it all is this is family, right? That's just what I live, breathe, and that's what lights me on fire.
Yep.
And I want, everybody here to take your experiences and learn from them. So you said, I make that mistake, I go back, I clean it up, and then rinse, recycle, repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did you get to that place where you accepted that this is kind of the way things are gonna turn out?
I I'm a therapist by trade. Outside of the work I did in education, I'm a therapist. I've worked with families and couples and young adults and older adults, like the whole spectrum, really. And I think it's something that along the way I picked up and learned and realized that there wasn't lots of models for recovery, like recovering in relationships or repairing relationships or even apologies. And so I remember, I cannot remember the book, but I remember listening to an audiobook, and they were talking about apologies and how many kids don't really know how to apologize because they've never seen really great models. And even though kids may be more likely to apologize, when they do, oftentimes adults have so much other stuff that they're bringing to the table that as soon as a kid apologizes, the parent or the adult figure is like, oh yeah, that, and then they like confront the apology or diminish the apology rather than find acceptance around the apology. So then what does that do? Like, kids are like, I'm never doing that again. They were vulnerable, so to speak. They don't realize it, but they were vulnerable and they showed up, and then they almost got in trouble for the apology. Like, yeah, you better not ever do that again. And so it really stuck with me about how we accept apologies and how we accept apologies, but then also how we repair harm when harm has been caused. And so that, I don't know that it ever came to me in any other way other than through like learning and reading and then helping other people figure out how to do that and have success with it. So
yeah, that concept of trial and error, which I think what parenting is. I honestly think you can read all the books in the world, you can be consumed with all the great, education items with parenting, but it's like every single human that arrives on this earth, it's so different.
yeah.
You can have 20 kids. Back in the day, that was pretty common, and you're all like, they're all different. And it's my belief that every single kid comes in our life to teach us something about ourselves, to teach us to grow, to get that edge, to be like, your way is just your way. That is not going to be my way. Highway, right? Like all these beautiful things. And so go back and share with us, because I've also worked excessively on this whole apology thing with my kids, and I'll share that after I get your nugget. Is how do we set up parents to politely, respectfully, generously accept those apologies that our kids are giving, even if we think they're like 20% honest, or they're taking accountability only that percent of the time?
Well, I think we have to become aware of what is happening for us when that apology happens, because oftentimes it's those unconscious kind of triggers or things that are happening for us that we respond or react out of. And so I think, when a child comes to us with an apology, it's really important to just be present in that moment, to, be able to see them and put our reactions, our triggers aside, and just find acceptance. And I also think there's a way to hold a container around that too, right? So a trick here is to use this kind of past, present, future orientation to responding. So being able to name the behavior, the past, right? So like, when you did this thing or showed up this way or acted this way, present is the impact that it had. So it really made me afraid for your safety, or it made me feel worried about or it made me frustrated with your tone, or whatever it was, right? The present is the emotion, the affect. And then the future is moving forward from here, I would like to see, or moving forward from here, and inviting them into moving forward from here. What will it look like when you, feel, embarrassed, or when you feel so pulling it all together in such a way that if like you have those three things present at the apology, take a deep breath, be in the present with that kiddo when they come to the table with that, and then go through those three steps of what it was, what the behavior was, name it, rename it, get to the affect, the present, what it felt like, what it feels like for you, and then what do we expect moving forward? And that really helps close that loop for kids, which is, yes, this happened, and these are the ways that my behaviors impacted others, and this is a shared expectation of what's going to happen forward.
All right, you have got to write that down. The past, which is the behavior, the present, which is the affect, those emotions, the impact that's coming, and then the future, which is that change we're talking about.
That's right.
So in our home, I have eliminated the word I am sorry. We're not using that word anymore because in the American culture, what I've realized is it's just it's fluid. It's not intentional. It just kind of comes out. And I started to notice. And I was like, what? Apologize. Like, I'm sorry comes, but nothing changes. I'm sorry comes, nothing changes. I was like, so then I said to the kids, okay, we no longer say the word I apologize. Like, we don't say I'm sorry. You say I'm sorry. I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying. And so they literally was like, God, mom. Like, so now you literally have to say, I apologize for,
Mm-hmm.
and you put that behavior into it.
Yep.
But I love the fact that you're giving me more tools now to say, really focus on that change and that future, because that's where all the innovation and goodness lies. So that's where the relationship can really become one that serves the both of you, because you're going to learn and see that they are taking accountability for doing something different moving forward.
That's right. That's right. And when, we know that people are more, collaborative, more willing to come together to engage, and or even happier and healthier when they feel like they're doing things with you rather than when things are being done to them or for them. And that's an idea that comes out of restorative practices, but it really applies across any setting and any group or any group of people, which is we could punish our way out of things. We could try to punish our way out of things. It's doing things to people or to others or to children, or we can try to take away every obstacle for them and we remove everything for them. But really, they're most empowered and most engaged and most willing to participate when they feel like it's with you. And so a punitive response really doesn't do much. And paving the path for them of cleared of all obstacles also doesn't help them build a muscle of resilience and persistence and all those things. And so it's when we are with people and they're with us, they feel along with us, is when we get the most out of them. And so how do we say, what does your behavior look like moving forward from here that's going to be different than the outcome we had today? And then they are with you on that, and they feel more accountable. They also feel like they have some ownership over it. Oftentimes when I show up in this way, with, we're talking about kids, but it's no different in dealing with your spouse or a friend or someone, it doesn't really matter the age. But I think what's incredible is that people will often, like, especially kids, will give themselves more of a punishment. Like, oh, I should just, and then help them realize, like, no, we don't have to go that far, but what's reasonable, and co-create that. This co-creation, no matter where we are, like, again, whether you're as a leader or as a parent, co-creation with people is where we're at right now, that I think is going to fuel the greatest innovation. The outdated ways of, this is what I said and this is what I meant, and do it this way or the highway, like you were saying before, my way or the highway, they're so outdated. What I think all people really want at the core is autonomy and agency and co-collaboration and co-creation. And so how do we create the conditions for us to be along with each other, to lead each other to the solutions together, to get the best outcomes?
Yeah, and I think this is different dynamics in the way we look at families and parenting, especially because back in the day, it's kind of like, no, you're not wearing that outfit, but why? Go change. And you're like, okay.
And sometimes we still fall back. Sometimes we still do that.
Or like in my house, the way that it was, like, this is what you're wearing today. You're like, oh, great, oh, yeah, no problem, right? So I think really understanding that, that people champion what they create is so important. And by people, I'm not just talking about, like, moms, dads, like even like the kiddos, like the example that you gave us, right? So walk us in through your family life and tell us something that will, so that way we can get to know you a little bit better, Alisha.
Yeah, so I have 2 children and a bonus daughter. I'm remarried, and my 2 kiddos are 14 and 9. So, and then my bonus daughter is an adult. Let's just put it that way. And so my wife and I are raising all 3 of these kiddos. And just like you said, we have very different parenting styles. This idea of choice and autonomy, when we first met, my youngest was 2 years old. And this idea of parenting with, autonomy and choice was definitely not anything that she was familiar with or understood. And her concerns were like, well, how does a kid like that turn out? What happens if they have all this autonomy and choice? And I asked her to just trust me, because I really believe that this was important. But it also came with this idea that, does that mean there's no rules, there's no consequences, there's no boundaries? And I hope that I've helped her see that is very far from the truth. In fact, I think parenting in such a way where there is choice and autonomy gives an opportunity for young people to feel ownership, and that they are a contribution. And I think that being a contribution in families is a skill that they then take out into the world to see how they can be valued and of value out in the world. And so, so far it's proving to be good, it's proving to work. But it came with a lot of myths, myths that maybe she brought to the table of like, what happens if you parent this way? You give up all control and then they just run wild. And it's like, oh, no, that's not it at all. When we hold people to a higher accountability, bringing in autonomy and choice, we actually give them the tools to be able to develop a sense to know how to do this. And so it's been a journey. It's always still a challenge of challenging old ways of being. Even when you said, like, put this outfit on, there's some days where that old wiring comes out in me. And then I check myself and I'm like, So, a journey, and it's a journey well worth it, for sure. I have a 14-year-old right now who, I can't tell you all the reasons why this might be so, but he still likes to play outside and to go outside and to explore and so he's a bright kid, but his phone is like not important to him. And I feel really, really grateful and honored that, I have a kiddo that's 14 that isn't sucked into that world of disguises and judgment and comparison, and is, living, I don't know. I grew up in the 80s. And so a childhood that's like that, you're outside playing until it gets dark out. And I feel really grateful for that.
So that's kind of going back to, you're doing something right? Because that is not a typical behavior. I've got a 13-year-old as well. By the way, happy birthday to your youngest, because last we spoke, he was 8. So I noticed that shift in that number. So,
or I might have just not realized how old he was that day. I don't know about you. I'm like, he's 8. I mean, he's 9. I mean, he's 10.
No, it's so true when they're growing. But going back to that point of him being outside and exploring and enjoying, my 13-year-old is same. He loves summer. He's like, Ma, tell me to come back inside in the summer. I'm like, just for the meal, please. Like, just for the meal, because this kid can go for hours without eating and has no problem. Like, yeah, so what? I'm like, no, your body needs the food. Mama needs to feel like she's doing something productive. Just get back in. So it's so wonderful when they're going outside. What do you think when we have children who really go outside and explore and do the simple things? What happens to these little humans as they grow up, and what do they bring to the table that other people may not, who are more consumed in their phones?
I mean, where do we begin? Think about one of the things that I think is stolen from childhood right now is the opportunity to be unsupervised. And it's a frightening world, so I understand it. And to some degree, I have to figure out where my comfort zone or discomfort zone is with it as well. But being unsupervised, and what happens in play when we're unsupervised is we have to figure things out. And so I think what the childhood that's most common today is stealing from kids is an opportunity to feel competent, that they can overcome, or they go a little too far and they realize, okay, I have to turn back. Like all those things that are innate to play and exploration that are so key for future success are the things I think that come with being outside, right? And then they're social. Hopefully, if they have, like, we have some kids on the neighborhood that they get to do that, and they get on their bikes and they go and they explore. Yesterday, it was a townwide garage sale, like a garage sale that's common to everybody. So like neighborhood sale, and the kids, there's an app so you can find out where all the garage sales are. And they were like, we're going on our bikes. And I was a bit nervous about like sending them out. I didn't know what roads they had to cross or whatever it was, and just kind of tempered my own fears around that. And, they went out and they figured out how to bargain, and they came back with a neck massager and a, weird thing, it's like, okay, I don't know what you want that for, but all right. A little stress in the shoulders they have to release. But yeah. And that's what, when you sit, on your phone, you're not getting the opportunity to do. Besides the benefits of nature, scientifically and physiologically, the rhythms of nature and all the things of ways that nature heals us. So,
yeah, I think so. So I really want to keep kind of conversing here, because I think in the world that we're growing up right now, you and I get this message often from our mentor is, our life is kind of being sucked out, and people are saying, I don't have time. But the average American is consuming anywhere from 4 to 6 hours of social media or TV or, gadgets, and content consumption every single day.
Yeah.
And when we think about that, that's like a really hefty part-time job, almost nearing to a full-time job here in America. What is one thing, or maybe if you want to expand on more than just one, where we can understand why it's important to bring back the simplicity in life?
Well, I think the simple is complex, right? There's so much complexity in the simple. Bringing it back to presence, like just being present, and the complexities of presence, all the things that we feel, and then what comes up and how we show up and what that brings up for us, like just the simple is complex, I think. And yet it's also, simple. It's our foundation, is like kind of going back to where we began. And I think that is, looking at how far we are from community, from where we came from. Like our origins are rooted in connection and community, and we're so far from that. And then what is the ripple of being so far from our core, so far from our foundation, so far from, kind of how the building blocks of how we're built as human beings? Well, we see a world so diseased and so divisive and so disconnected. And so, I can't say enough for just those core, being able to come back to the simple and creating simplicity in life, as a way of moving forward, as a way of being, not thinking or having to manufacture, but just like, this is who we be, right? We are just like, what is the most important? What is the thing that matters most right now? What is the thing that matters most that we can move the needle on, or connect to, or be present to?
Yeah. So the words that you're using, you're using all my 2024 words.
That's why we connect. We love each other so much.
Exactly. It's like, first we talked about Tawakal, right? Having belief. And I was like, okay, got it. That was my first word. And then now you're talking about presence, which is my second word, innovation, which is my third. I think, what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying, we have the same frequency, girl, okay? Like, and I love what you're saying, because just recently, I started to, since 2024 began, I started to pour more into presence. And the shift, and believe it or not, I can feel your energy right now. Because when you said, I don't know how much more I can emphasize presence, You're always like your mind, body, and soul were just connected as you were saying that. And I felt it. And I was like, oh, girl, take me there. Like, take me there, you know?
Yes.
Because everybody can have so much more aliveness, vibrancy, joy, meaning, connection. If we realize that this very moment is probably the most important one.
That's it. That's it. There is
How do
not, I have friends that laugh at me. They say like, I'll say like, oh, time isn't real. We could shift time. We could, and they laugh. But, this is the only moment that actually really exists. The one that happened just before this is gone already. And the one that is going to happen hasn't happened yet. And it is this moment that we are the most alive, is because this is the only moment that is real right now. It's tangible. It is real. It is here right now. And I think so many people don't know what now feels like. We are so in the past and replaying it and, agonizing over it. And we're so future forward, fearing and worrying and concerned, or even planning. It doesn't always have to be negative about the future, that we really have forgotten what it feels like to be right now. And that's where our power is. Our power isn't leaking, things from the past or, projecting things into the future, but our aliveness is in this moment. And that's through the, internet. Why you could feel that is because if I were out there or back there in that moment that you asked that question, you would feel my distraction. You would feel my disconnection. You would feel my unalignment. But what you felt was a commitment to this moment, to really think, to feel those words, to consider what that is like, what that means, and then give you the best thing that I have available to me in this moment, which 24 hours from now could be very different response. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad I'm here right now with you, for every single one of you who has tuned in thus far. For all of you who come up here every single week, I am truly grateful. And I hope that you understand, and I wish you understood why I brought Alisha on today, because she is a gem and I could talk to her for like 80 hours and be like, oh, wait, only 5 minutes have gone by. Time has really slowed down for us, right?
See, we can bend time.
Exactly, because the amount of laughter that we've had, but the depth that we've gone through in this conversation is often what it is to what you said, like just have full agency, be completely aligned, really those values that you're talking about, hold them sacred.
Yeah.
And we all say that our family is so important and they matter so much, but it's the fact that they don't get that presence where they might not even feel that they matter.
That's right. That's right. 100%. And it's so vital, to our self-concept is this social significance, that we are significant in the eyes of others. We just are built this way, and it helps us develop our self-concept. And so from a very young age, children get the message that I am valuable, I'm important, I'm heard, I am listened to, I matter to the people around me. And they carry that through the adversities that they have. And that is core to the development of their self-concept, their self-image.
And that's kind of going back and tying back to what you had shared about your mother and losing her at a very young age, because you said that the way that she loved,
yes,
wanted to keep that legacy forward for my kids, which is why being a parent has so much more responsibility and weight for you, because you want to be like, yeah, you know what? In a way, that grandma's still here with you.
Yes.
She's pouring in through me.
Yeah, my grief, I think, was mitigated in a sense through the ability to have my mother's essence live through me. So this sense of generativity, to pass that on, was, I think, the key to, and of course, grief always hurts, but for me, the grief was like lessened, the pain of the grief was lessened by making a decision to let her live through me.
I could see that so much. And one of the things that I adore doing is talking to the elderly. Right? I'm like, give me some core, give me some lessons, give me something that could just cut the process out, that way of innovating. And it is this, when these elderly just talk about what really mattered. Yesterday I had a beautiful conversation with my uncle, and what he said, I was like, oh my God, he's become wise. Like, he's so wise. I was like, I have not seen him in this light. And it was like, the past is the past. The future doesn't know. We don't know what exists in the future. We can try for it, but then
Yeah.
God, I think, like I have a lot of visions. I do, but it's like we plan and then God plans, and you're like, haha, you wish you Trump that, okay? Like whatever, right? And in the future, I pray to all, for all of you, that is beautiful and filled with aliveness, and vibrancy, and love, and joy, and peace, and serenity. But it's this right here, right now, And He said, right now, just take care of what matters most.
That's it.
And I love how you said the way that we show up for our children is how they really understand what their social significance is.
Yeah.
That they matter, that they're loved, that they're cared for, that they're cherished, and in a way, like their existence is pivotal to who we are.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that they're not going to have difficult things, but when they have those difficult things and they have this sense of social significance, the trauma isn't in the thing that happened, it's in being alone in that. And so when we are left alone to deal with traumas, difficulties, adversity, is when they wreak that havoc on us. But it's in this sense that people care about me. I'm dependent on. People listen to me. They pay attention to me. They're here for me when I need them. That's what is part of the healing that happens for people, young and adult, when adversity happens, because it's going to happen. It's not to say that, just because we care and love our kids, they're not going to have hardships. They will. But the core, that foundation of that social significance, that there are people in my life that I feel, really that I matter to, and am valued and valuable to, that goes a long way in resilience.
Right. So we can be here forever and ever and ever. Every single person who is listening, I hope you guys are taking a lot of good nuggets out, because this can, of course, be watched again, through the Spanglish World Network. But I do want to ask you, how do people get in contact with you, Alisha? How do they reach out to you?
Oh, yeah. So it's my full name, Alisha Di Lorenzo, Alisha. You see it right there, Di Lorenzo, without a space, and on social media. So it's just my full name on social media, Instagram, and even email is on my website. You can contact me. It's alishadilorenzo.com. So if I said anything today, or if there's any, ways that you've been inspired and want to know more, or get in contact. I love connecting with people and hearing their stories and their journeys.
Yeah. All right. So we have one more thing that we do here before we let you go. Okay. And this is something that I love, and it's called an intentional wrap up. Okay. These are rapid fire questions that I will ask you. So one sentence or one word that you're just gonna, whatever comes up. And this whole time I think things are just flowing. So I have no doubt you're gonna out deliver. Okay, so here we go.
If you really knew me, this rapid fire gets me so nervous.
Yeah!
Why? I don't know why. All right.
Yeah, but the whole thing has been a rapid fire, Alisha. I'm just not renaming it, right?
I know. I don't know why. It's just as soon as you say rapid fire, I'm like, the tension.
Okay, we'll call it calm. Again. Okay, there we go.
Present fire.
Exactly. No fire here. Because I think that fire is that word that's gonna be like, whoa. Okay, what do you want to leave behind for the world?
Oh, love.
How will you know you've led an intentional life?
When the ways that I've treated people is not forgotten, people will remember the way they were treated or felt by me.
If you could create one law that everybody had to follow, what would that law be?
Love people in such a way that they love to exist
Wisdom dropping. Okay. What is one lesson that you can share with us that has made you who you are today?
In my teacher training, and when I was learning to become a yoga teacher, I was told the story that there's two wolves that live inside of us, and they're at war. The wolf of love and peace and harmony, and the other one of distress and judgment. And the question, it's a Native American child is asking his grandparent or elder, and the child says, well, which one wins the war? And the grandfather says, the one that you feed. And I think we're always feeding something, and whatever it is that we're feeding is the thing that will grow inside of us. And so, what do you feed?
Y'all know why I brought her here today. Okay. What is the key to a healthy relationship?
Communication.
Okay, yeah.
Honest, truthful communication.
Yes, I agree. Honest, respectful communication, so necessary. What is one change you want to see in the world?
For us to really go back to our core of interdependence. We are dependent on each other. We are reflections of each other. And if we could get back to our interconnectedness rather than our division and our separateness, we are all a part of one human family. You know, my pain is your pain. My love and joy is your love and joy. If we can get back to that, we solve 90% of maybe 100% of the problems we're facing.
I love it. Thank you so very much, Alisha, for coming on the show today and sharing your greatness with us. I had a blast and a pleasure introducing you to the world.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. This was such a fun way to start the day.
Yeah. All right. For all of you who are still here, tuned in and listening, this show can be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and the programming. As we close, my prayer is that this show will embark us on a transformative path filled with gratitude, accepting the unfoldings of life, and committing to values and dreams which allow us to tap into our own greatness. I have Tawakal, belief in all of us. When we unleash our authenticity, we start to live intentionally. Remember, there's only one of you, one life designed by excellence. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it. Most importantly, live into it with intentionality to be a better version of you.